and you don't use black architects or engineers or design teams and so forth for that institution, there is a problem with that. These are jobs that allow smaller companies to become bigger companies. Small architectural firms become bigger architectural firms. That's how white architectural firms do it as well. They didn't all start out with 1,000 employees. They didn't all start out with 500 employees. They start out with 2 guys, 2 women, whatever the case may be, and then they built up, and now they get all these different projects that we don't get at institutions that we are the primary stakeholders of. There is a problem when you have a $50 million edifice, multi-purpose center, sanctuary, and you look down at the contracts, so I had to do the analysis of this, and you see that there aren't any black people doing that. They're from Texas State. They're from Texas A&M. They're from all these institutions around Houston, around Texas, that can fund football programs and after-school programs for kids, for their white kids, fund trips at their churches for their children to go to D.C. with a fully funded thing. These are things that we are not able to do because we don't give those opportunities to us. That is one way we can look at these institutions other than just the programs they provide. They are financial juggernauts that have a huge financial impact. Unfortunately for us, we're not getting that in the areas that we most need it. It is a pride for me when I used to go build houses that I could drive by a house and take my mom by there and say, Mom, I built that. Or Dad, I built that. Or my friends, brothers and sisters, we can go to a neighborhood and say, over there in Northeast Houston, yeah, we built those homes right there. There is an amount of pride that you can't put a number on when you know you have done it, and we don't have that in our black churches. Even someone was talking about, I'll end here, even someone was talking about Atlanta. I'm not saying the churches aren't involved in the community and so forth. I can't say that. But I do know that New Birth, one of the staple churches when I was a resident at Grady Hospital down there, I used to go to the church there. And I did an analysis, and it was a $50 million church in 2001. And Sizemore and another engineering firm were the ones who were the primary contractors on that church in Atlanta. It doesn't make sense. We have to start doing Maynard Jackson ways in which either the church or black institutions have to do it. We're saying, hey, look, we have to allow us and make us a priority in getting those contracts. It is the same thing. These are things that build up communities. Instead of a church, I'll give you one example. A young lady who is an activist in our community, has done a lot of arts work in our community, had a program teaching kids that now are doing wonderful things, 30 years in the making. She went to one of our main churches asking for $5,000 for her program to help teach kids in the summer doing art classes and creative projects and so forth. Been doing it for years. We're talking about $5,000. She went there and had 3 meetings with them, and after a while they said, no, we're not going to do it. She had to come an individual to get the money to keep it going. These are the things where, yes, our church is doing certain things, but there is room for critique where we can say, hey, look, these dollars need to be going to black folks. These design efforts, these projects, the catering needs to go to black firms. It's a business institute. And that's where we're lacking and falling apart. And no one is criticizing that. We just sit back and say, not my pastor. Don't criticize him or her. We don't. And when you look at the numbers, we're not getting the money. And that is the key. I'll end it there.
So I'm going to respond.
That was great.
Partly, was you a member of that church?
That's called gatekeeping. That's the problem with the black church. It should not matter whether or not you're a member or not. We gatekeep. Why is the pastor?
TC, stop interrupting.
I was next.
You were not next.
I was next, nigga. I was next. They told me to let Sid go.
Okay, one second.
You didn't hear me talking, and then actually said let Sid go, and then TC can go.
Yes. Praise the Lord. Wait a minute. Hold up. Wait a minute. Am I on mute? What's going on? So, BT, I'm not sure if you remember, but right in the middle of TC speaking, some kind of way, Sid got the mic, and they forced him to give the mic to Sid. Can we please?
No, we're not letting him land. I'm responding to Rick. No.
But this is her rule. That don't work for that.
It's
interrupted him while he was in the middle of talking.
He was in the middle of talking 17 times, 34 minutes.
Doesn't matter. That's her room. It's her rules. If I was talking, I let it go. It's on me.
I didn't know.
No, she's giving you privilege.
No, she's giving you the floor. Shut the fuck up.
No, y'all not gonna argue like this. Be nice.
I don't want to argue.
Okay.
Good, then mute up.
TC, you're not
Can
helping
I
the
be
situation.
allowed to continue though to interrupt everybody?
I was interrupted.
He did not interrupt anyone.
He was because he did.
Hey, I'm enjoying
Definitely been interrupting everybody.
I'm enjoying all this debate.
Well, guess what?
And it's work to get him the mic every time. So go ahead.
All this stage
Okay,
reading going on.
Thank you. Y'all all need to get recorders and pay attention to your own actions. Go ahead, TC.
Thank you. I recall I was speaking. You guys said, let's say it go.
TC, just say what you gotta say.
Move
You can
on.
roll your eyes all
Follow
you
your
want to.
page, rage, nigga.
All right. Thank you very much. So, I said actually hit on some really good points. The important point here is that the churches gatekeep who they get to decide who wins and who loses. That's the problem with the black church. They feel entitled to give people license to do stuff in their community as if we needed to check in with them before we wanted to do anything. The problem with the black church is it's no longer an institution. Somebody referred to it as institution. I even called it institution at one point. It's no longer an institution. It's an impediment. The black church has become an impediment to black progress because Sam mentioned the profit incentive, but I believe it's the political exploitation of the black church that's rendered it ineffective in being an institution. I gave you guys examples a minute ago of how the black church has created, used to create wealth, used to create outsized outcomes and beneficial outcomes for our community. Now it's giving us diminishing returns. People are leaving the black church. You can look these numbers up. You don't have to take my word for it. Black churches are closing down. Yet still, they still occupy a majority of the commercial real estate that exists in the black community. And we're not monetizing it. The reason why we're not monetizing it is because these black churches with 20 and 30 members, when they can accommodate 300 members, are gatekeeping access to their institutions because people are asking, are you a tithe-paying member at the church? Are you paying your tithes? Are you a member at the church? Oh, you're not a
15
member?
seconds.
Therefore, hold on. Therefore, we have to go to the white institution that's also not a member because we think that we'll be better postured and positioned to benefit from the democratic political apparatus because that's the democratic choice for who they want to use for their building projects. It's bullshit.
Time. BT, one mic on you, brother. Did BT leave?
Of course.
No, he
He's
didn't.
on the stage. He's right there.
Tickle, you there?
What?
I thought that's what it was. I mean, we done heard that bullshit for 30
What
minutes.
did you just say, BT?
Thought his name stood for butt tickler.
Stop
He
saying
said he's in a
that.
store and can't speak. Can I go?
Okay, go ahead, Johnny. So shut one mic on you.
Okay, I'm gonna keep this quick. It's unfortunate that people make the generalizations of what the black church is doing and its impact in the community. But I'm glad Dr. AC pretty much addressed it and said it how I would say it. It's just that a lot of people have not experienced the impact and the positive outcomes of the black church, or they may be in an isolated area where it's not obvious. But when it is touted and promoted, or they get blowback because now they're being performative, or it's not real. So you just can't win. But as far as he's saying the gatekeeping comment, I put in the chat. I mean, take a struggle because I thought gatekeeping was the goal, but now gatekeeping is not. And it's
Not when you're gatekeeping out your own
okay,
people.
all right, I'm not done, guys.
BT, be
Okay.
quiet.
And so, and to Ted knows I love him, but I get in rooms and he says this often about the black church in scholarships, they build senior housing, they build affordable housing, they fund health clinics, they create financial literacy debt programs to get people off of debt. They send people to school. They have they were some of the biggest institutions to help the water crisis in Mississippi. They were some of the first to react with the Katrina devastation. Like, they do a lot, so it's just disheartening that a lot of people say that they don't have an impact on the Black community as a whole in our land.
Well, they don't know any better. It's a
And
lie.
just to defend,
A few things here. For one, y'all have to stop making the Black church the end all be all. It's not what we think. Y'all gotta stop. You're putting the onus on this thing as if they can do everything. So say, Rick, I didn't go to Newburgh, but I'm pretty Newburgh church was built in. That church literally created a club, a sober club for all the teens to go to as an alternative to be in the streets in the hood during my literal upbringing. So when you come up with Newburgh because they didn't build a Black architect, it's just weird to me. That church did a lot, and that's even with they nasty pastor. Now that's another thing. Y'all are trying to take these mega churches who be messing up and doing some crazy things and putting it on our churches, and that's a slap in the face to the Black church as well. That's and that's a slap to the Black church as well. Every church ain't a mega church, but mega churches still do stuff, even though they do have a lot of things going on that we don't agree with or that are wrong. And I think y'all can't do both, which is hold somebody accountable but still see the good. Y'all are one way out. It's 100% this way, 100% that way, and that's just not feasible or logical way to look at anything. And I think that's my issue. Is y'all can't be like, yeah, okay, Black church is cool, but it's some things we need to work on. And even Kimberly said when you said the building thing, okay, we found one thing. But y'all, then you don't talk about all of the good, and I won't go over the laundry list that Dr. A.T. went over, that my church literally does. Even in my church, everything Dr. A.T. names my church does. From the community impact to the helping the homeless and feeding the food and clothing ministry, don't get me started on what they do for the good. And let alone the tuition, paying scholarships, etc. And I did ask about if that lady was a member, asked for that $5,000. Because you're not going to just come to my church and say, give me $5,000 for a business if you don't go there. But if you come for me to pay your rent for a month, we will do that. So don't try to say a church is supposed to give out money because you got a good business idea or a good nonprofit idea, and you don't even go to that church. That's just weird. But I guarantee you, if you really like, hey, I'm going to lose my house, I got 2 kids, can y'all pay my rent? That will do it. So y'all got to stop with the weird stuff.
Hey, I got a question.
You can ask the question when I'm done, brother. I waited very long. You saw lady go ahead of me, so he did the exact same thing. So no. Now again, please write it down, though I do want to hear it. But in summation, I believe that we have to take into account that the Black church is not perfect, but that most of them are trying. And so the Black church had something for us and gave us more community than we ever had. Young people were leaving the Black church in record numbers, which is why we see some of the things that CC said and talked about with the decline and the landowners going on the street. That's because people did lose their way. A lot of us are going back because we see, hey, maybe all this stuff my grandma and mama made me listen to, I need this. Maybe this is what saved me and got me this far. Because what we're doing now with all of y'all people in this room who are anti-Black church, who have left it and don't know what you're talking about, being opinionated, that's not helping. But that Black church helped me and 1,000 other people that I can name become who we are, and they still instilling things that the community needs to do better. All right.
Okay, my question is, if I go to Chase Bank, right, and I ask for a loan, Bank of America, such and such, etc., do I have to be a member of that bank to get a loan from that bank?
It's a bank of church.
A church is not a bank.
No, I'm just asking.
Right, like, that's crazy.
I'm not even answering.
Your question is not relevant. It creates
My question is
a
relevant.
there
there's areas that were less affected than others.
My sisters are from Zimbabwe, so like my parents are Canadian though, but they're from Zimbabwe. And then my mom's half Zimbabwean, I guess my maternal grandmother's South African. Bosa, not even Zulu. Oh, I guess you wouldn't know because tribalism. That was like the main reason of slavery, if you think about it, because of tribalism, right?
No, I don't agree with that. I think tribalism is like more of like a what do we call that? Premortalism, where this is just like how it's always been. As humans, we are just innately, like that's our nature. You stick with your family. You stick with it here.
Basically,
I also-
Tribalism. How is that not tribalism?
I also don't agree with that, in my humble opinion. I stress. Oh, should I wait? I'll wait.
No, you're fine. Sorry. We really don't have to keep or anything like that.
Yeah, I think she meant to say it's like pre-civilization, like before the first societies. Sorry to interrupt the bro.
That's fine. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, I actually didn't know that other countries.
Okay, great. I also don't agree with what was said, in my humble opinion, and I stress opinion. The reason for continued slavery throughout the centuries or whatever was making money. If no money was to be made, slavery would have ended. And by the way, yes, I'm aware that there were no blacks that had chattel slavery in the United States. But in history, Greece, Rome, Egypt, China, yes, Africa, Muslim, Barbary Coast, Zanzibar, tons of other places, slavery was almost a normal type of situation. Over 500, 1,000 years ago.
Well, I'm just telling you, I didn't know that, so.
Oh, and thank you for being honest, and I appreciate anytime someone says I don't know, and I appreciate
No,
that.
because I'm Canadian, so Canada focus immigration, blah blah blah. So I don't really have the same Black American history. I'm just saying from my understanding, when I see what they talk about and they're protesting, that's one of their main points. That's that's why I brought it up, to be honest.
Well, I think Canada has a history of slavery too.
Yes, they do.
Thank you.
As intense.
Right. My understanding, and I could be wrong, both the French and the British had slavery in Canada.
They were particularly brutal. Those two empires.
Which was prior to the 1800s and ended in the 1800s. But there was a whole bunch of slavery in Canada before the 1800s.
I mean, Canada's kind of weird. I'm in Ontario, which is the only place for diversity and multiculturalism. But I'm right by Quebec. That's why I can know je parle français, I know a little bit of français, right? A little bit of French. It's kind of weird because you have Ontario that's kind of multicultural, so they're kind of centralist, kind of. And then you have Quebec, they're completely nationalist on the French side, and they just hate France.
Are they still trying to secede?
Separate? They have their own political party.
Yeah.
They really have their own political party. It's they literally are nationalists of Canada. And then you have Alberta, which you would call the Maple Mega, because they're just annoying. And then the rest of the provinces,
They're just annoying. Why is it so annoying? What's so annoying?
The Maple Mega and Alberta.
Maple MAGA. I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, and I noticed twice she said Maple MAGA and did not say the Maple Leaf, which I'm in I'm in the United States, and we refer to Canada. We know the Maple Leaf. It's interesting she didn't say.
Yeah, because that's a hockey game. Okay.
Yeah, Maple MAGA literally didn't register in my brain until she said it with her.
Yeah, well, it's Alberta is like, okay, to explain it better, like Alberta is like America's Texas. To be honest with you, that's how I can explain it.
Dottie, I heard you had a question about DEI earlier and like the concept of why it was created. Did they explain?
Oh no, someone already explained it to me, so it's okay.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was gonna explain it to you if you still didn't understand. No.
Also, I'm not against it. I was just like I'm not against it. I was just saying what the other side was saying, and the other guy like explained it.
Yeah.
But like one question I will have with the whole like DI, when you look at employment laws, when they're like, oh, you shouldn't discriminate. I don't DI is like an enforcement of that, like enforcing it because it was happening. So I don't know, it's just kind of confusing, you know? Like, why eliminate it, you know? Like they eliminated it, and then it just goes into nepotism, so it just makes no sense.
I was gonna say we're veering very sharply into Steve's territory here. I don't know, Steve, you got anything you want to say?
Well, I'll give a very short, shameless plug, but I do have a question for our neighbor to the north. Of course, I've been doing the Ask the Atheist with Reverend Scott and the Mod Squad every Sunday. That's on tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. PST. But I did want to ask our friendly neighbor to the north. About 40 years ago, they revised their United States, the Constitution. This is their preamble, where they added to it in the very first paragraph, right off the bat, quote, Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God. I wanted to know if she had any thoughts about her preamble that was redone 40 years ago to include God. Any thoughts?
Are you Canadian?
No, dear. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, California, in the United States of America.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even know they did that. And this is coming from someone that's doing a bachelor's in law, and like I know the Constitution and that. For some reason, they never taught any of that.
Well, I'll tell you what. Firstly, it's my pleasure to educate you. Thank you very much. And number two, I only brought that up since the title of the room is The Claim God Communicates with Humans. You know, it seemed appropriate to indicate that 40 years ago, you Canadians changed your preamble to include the supremacy of God.
Well, that's kind of odd, considering that we like base our whole country off of multiculturalism. That's odd.
Wasn't Canada recently where there were some actual legal issues that came up about this? Wasn't that?
Government in Canada. No, fuck our government. Because literally, our government got in trouble, what is it, 4 years ago, 5 years ago? It was called the SNC Lavalin case, where they're getting, and by the way, prostitution is illegal. Well, kind of. It's like illegal for the guy to pay money, but the girl doesn't get in trouble, basically. Well, anyways, our government officials would bring people from Arab, Saudi Arabia, and stuff like that, and like bring in high and prostitutes to bribe them. Yes, that happened.
I kind of have a feeling the supremacy of God thing has like a Roman Catholic influence. Being that, you know,
what they just wanted to tax the Catholic Church.
Oh, excuse me, Dottie. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I thought you said you knew nothing about that.
I knew nothing about what you were saying about that statement from 40 years ago. I didn't know that. But like
it's not a statement. It's in your preamble, which is our Constitution.
No, I think that you said the statement that I didn't know that was a saying. Is one thing.
I'm gonna stand.
So I know. I mean, even in the United States, we have on how our society was structured. We have a huge Roman influence, whether people believe it or not. It is in our history books. If you find really old history books, you will find that. But I can't help but think the same thing for Canada, especially with, you know, I'm going to go there. There's some human rights abuses when it comes to the Roman Catholic Church about 40 years ago in Canada and the United States.
But don't you think it's weird, like all of a sudden, like the Canada wants to tax the church? Doesn't that go against everything if you think about it? So like the whole separating of the church from the government. So why are you taxing the church?
Well, that's the United States. That's not Canada. That's the United States.
No, they announced it literally 5 days ago.
Separation of church and state is most.
No, they separated, but they want to tax the churches now.
It's different. Those are two different issues, though. Separation of church and state is about the state not mandating what the official religion of the state is.
Mhm.
And that has nothing to do with whether churches should be taxed or not.
Well, do you think churches should be taxed? Because I don't really think so.
Yes.
I don't know, but it's like, oh, they should be.
They can write off charitable work just like anybody else thing, but I taxed, it would go a long way to alleviating some of the.
Don't you think it's like an attack on religion? If they tax the churches, are they attacking them, kind of?
No, not really. No, if they're raking in money like a business, I had no problem with that.
Yeah, but all the money goes to like food banks.
No,
and
it
goes
doesn't.
to,
Don't be tricked. Don't be fooled. No, it does not. That is, there are some. No, I'm not. That's not to say that there are not some churches that do spend a majority of their budget on those kind of things. But again, if that's the case and they were taxed, there would be mechanisms to account for charitable.
Well, wouldn't it be better for them to be? Wouldn't it be better for them to be severely audited than to do that then?
Well, I mean, why would you audit them if the only purpose of an audit is to find out if they're complying with taxes? So I mean, they would go hand in hand.
Well, like why? Like, if they're like donating more than, I know that like money laundering can go through this because of this loose like threshold of not taxing them. But like, isn't there like a better way to go about it than to tax them?
Not that I can think of. No, not that I can think of. I mean, unless you have like instead of. I mean, I guess there's many different methods by which you can tax the churches. Sure, from like a simple flat kind of, just a church pays a 10% tax to the government or something like that. But most likely, if they're going to tax the churches, it's going to be based on the gross income of the church itself. So, and I think, I think that we're missing out on billions of revenue from church income. Taxing churches.
Considering like how many churches are across the country, you don't know about that. So. But like, I thought churches are supposed to be community based, right? So.
Well, yeah, and I think one of the main justifications, especially in recent years, that we've had for taxing the churches being completely justified, especially with the recent political climate that we've been in, is churches are supposed to not get involved in the promotion of political candidates, political doctrines, all that kind of stuff. And that's just not been the case. Last, I don't know how many years. It's been going on for a long time.
I went to a Catholic school and a public school at one point because I fucking hated my Catholic school. Sorry, I swear. But then I noticed the difference because they make you pay in Canada. They make you pay, I think it's like $200 just to be in the school per year. And public school obviously doesn't do that. And then you have to pay for the uniform. But I feel like the quality of education is better. And Catholic school teachers get paid better because the Catholic Church is upholding itself. And that's why the quality of education is better.
By the way, I went on the internet very quickly. Take it for what it's worth. According to the internet, there are 350 to 400,000. Let me repeat that: 350 to 400,000 different congregations around the country, the United States, according to the internet.
That is another source of revenue. Holy.
Daddy's Jen is getting close to 25 years old now. needs a new
But
chat.
I have a question. What's the difference between? Cause I feel like when you go to a Catholic school, it's cheaper compared to a private school. So if you tax that,
Generally speaking, if you're Catholic, you're going to be tied into the whole money infrastructure, the monetary infrastructure of the Roman Catholic Church. Whereas private schools, if they're not Catholic, if they're Protestant oriented, they're going to have much lower amounts of access. Generally speaking, there's not a worldwide far-reaching organization to cover Protestant churches. Protestant churches are much more fragmented organizationally than the Catholic Church.
really.
Yeah, there's
What about the fact that
divisions of the Protestant church.
when you pay to go to? What about the time like when you pay to go to a Catholic church and you look at teachers when they're applying for their jobs? Like, do you know if you want to be a teacher at a Catholic school, you have to have proof that you're Catholic, and they get paid better. So what about that?
That's not true.
Wait, sorry.
I know.
I just want to add one more point, and because of that, and the reason why they're getting paid better is because they get funding from their fellowship, right? So that's why the quality of education is better compared to public schools. Yeah.
May I respond to that now? Would that be okay? Thank you. I know for 100% fact that the Catholic private schools regularly hire non-Catholic teachers and professors because they have knowledge in their field of expertise. And my brother, and of course I'm Jewish, my brother is Jewish, he was a teacher professor at a Catholic private school for over 5 to 10 years. I just wanted to point out that fact.
Well, that doesn't change the fact that they get funded better and paid better.
All I said is that Catholic private schools do hire non-Catholic professors and teachers. That's all.
I'd be surprised if there was I don't know this. I'd be surprised if there was a wage gap in a Catholic school between a non-Catholic and a Catholic. I think they'd be
There is a wage gap.
I would need to look into that because I think that would have been protested a lot. There would have been a big.
No, there is a wage gap. The reason why people can't protest it is because Catholic schools are like they're privately funded, so the teachers get paid more compared to public schools.
Yeah, but with the teaching field and finding good teachers being as competitive and scarce a field as it tends to be, I just don't think that would benefit them to do anything like something like that.
Well, it happens, so I don't have to tell you.
I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, go look it up right now. It's online.
No. If somebody challenges or questions what you're saying, it's not them calling you a liar. That's not what's happening. It's just challenging the information, challenging the idea. That's all that's happening.
I don't know. And this became weird because I graduated, right? And then it's just like one of my teachers is so weird. She was like from Sudan, and she was my English teacher, and she was the one that like really helped me get good marks. I'm not gonna do a soft story, but it was like one of those soft stories, and she was just like a good teacher. And then I saw her on the bus, and the reason why she's on the bus because she got into a car accident, so she's like scared of driving. And then she was like, "Oh, I have to retire because I'm in a Catholic school teaching," and she specifically chose to teach there because of the Catholic belief. And she was like, "Oh, I had to quit because they wanted me to teach about transgender people," and she said she refused to.
Well, did you ever ask her if she was or was not Catholic from Sudan?
I didn't ask that, but that's not the point. So anyway, the whole point that she was like, basically she was like, because Sudan is going for a war, so she was like one of the princesses of the royal family. You can literally search her up. She was like in England being protected, and then came to be my teacher.
She was, just so I understood, because the connection is a little bad, this teacher who taught at a Catholic school, she was a princess of the royal family in Sudan, and then she moved out to the United States to teach in a Catholic school. Is that
Well, no, she became a refugee, and she went to Europe, and then she went to Canada. Yes.
So just to make sure I understand, a princess of the royal family became a refugee. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because look at.
Thank you.
Yeah. Basically, well, I wouldn't call her princess to say, but like she was part of that regime, to be honest. And you can search her up. Okay, her name is Miss Umunu, so that's her name. So yeah, I
will say that's the first time I've ever heard of a princess of a royal family becoming a refugee. I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just
look at the climate of Sudan because of the war. So I guess she took refugee in like UK, and then she came to Canada and became a teacher. She was lady on the news, and then she was like, yeah, it was like a whole thing. Yeah.
Sounds right to me. Oh yeah, I believe.
And she had like grandchildren. She has like 4 grandchildren, and one of her grandkids, and one of her grandchildren is like a piece of shit. It's like one of those like Sudanese dudes being a gangbanger. I'm like, like you knew about your grandmother who taught me. Should be ashamed of you. That's what I told him. Yes.
You're talking about an African princess, not a European princess, part of the European royal family, right?
She was a refugee, and then like I guess her other children gave birth. Her grandchild was my age, and her grandchild was smoking weed and causing troubles and stealing. So I said to him, you know, your grandmother is my teacher. How could you do this? That's what I told him. She'll be ashamed of you. That's what I said. So, yeah.
Is she part of the European royal family or the African?
No, it's Sudan because they're wars and they're all Sudanese, okay?
All right, cool.
I had every right to say that to him because it's a disgrace. Can you imagine, like, your grandmother fought for this and that, and then you want to be a gangster and do that? Yes, of course I told him, shame on you. Okay, of course I said that.
How long, when did she immigrate to the United States? How long has she been in the United States?
I'm talking about Canada, are you forgetting?
I'm sorry, how long has she been in Canada? My mistake, I'm sorry.
Maybe like, cause she's like old, so I'm guessing like maybe like 15 years, 10 years, something like that.
She's been in Canada for 15 years.
I'm just talking about her grandchildren being like so when you meet her grandchildren, they're like into like the gang culture, right? Of like shooting, being a nigga, and being like hardcore and stuff. And then like, I'm not done talking. I wasn't done talking. I'm talking. No, because the grandchildren meant a lot to me, so I don't know why they're interrupting me.
Dottie, calm down for a second. She was just using that, relating it to the story. I don't think she was calling anybody that.
I know, but the thing is, I take it very personal when a black woman's online saying, nigga.
Okay, well,
I just said I was really close to her grandmother.
You have voice of protest, that's good. You have voice of protest, that's good enough. Go ahead, Dottie.
So anyways, his grandmother was really close to me, and because her sons were close to my age, and because I knew what neighborhood and what they were doing, so when I say nigga, they're being like gangbangers and like stealing, and then just doing like stupid shit. To be honest, like just stupid stuff, and then one of them talked to me. I was on the bus, so not like I saw him out. And I was like, oh, I know your grandmother. And then he was like, because he's like a gangbanger, he's like smoking weed and doing all this stuff. And he's like selling weed, saying, you want to buy from me, all this crap. And I was like to him, you know, your grandmother is a war refugee person as a refugee, right? And when she became an English
Tommy,
teacher.
I'd like to stop you for just a second. I feel like we've completely lost the thread that we were talking about. What were we even talking about? It feels like we've just kind of rambled off onto somewhere else.
Is it
It's not that interrupted me.
is it okay on that if I ask a question?
Sure.
Because your claim was that you knew someone that was in the royal family, right?
I never said he was in the royal family. I was talking about Sudan.
Okay, well, I don't know if I just heard that, but I'm pretty sure.
I literally can find you the news article and put it in the chat.
Can you just let me in for a second? So, okay, that clears that up because
I thought you said that too, by the way.
I'm confused because if you say something,
So it's not Sudan.
She said princess in royal family, and I repeated it, and she said yes, princess royal.
From Sudan, though. From Sudan.
we didn't know you were talking about Sudan. Okay.
That's where she's from. She's from Sudan.
Can I finish? Second is kind of like alarming for you to associate a word, right, that is related to black people in a negative light. Like you're saying that they're.
Isn't she black herself?
Jesus.
Dude, you do not say that negative patterns of behavior is a admonished term for black people, right? You do not get those two.
Obviously, I wouldn't say that because that's a contradiction to myself and her. But no, I was saying.
Contradiction to yourself, so you shouldn't say shit like that.
No, I was just saying. No, because she has like some children anyway. I was just saying that I got offended when one of her grandchildren who was going around would do all this, and I was like, do you know? And because I have an emotional connection. I have an emotional connection with his grandmother.
I'm asking you not to repeat it. We heard you 5 times.
Don't repeat that word again, please.
Do not say the behavior again. Do not say what they were doing again. First of all, there's nothing wrong with selling weed if you're trying to survive.
Nothing wrong with smoking it either.
There's nothing wrong with smoking weed. Those are not
I
negative.
wasn't saying that.
Okay. Well, those were 2 examples that you brought up, right? You didn't really have any other examples other than them. You know.
Well, because I don't know him, so I don't know what he does.
He smokes weed and he tries to sell it, so he's a nigger. Get out of here, sister.
That's what I'm saying, because I know a bunch of white people that sell meth and other stuff like that too. Okay? But see, you people are like misinterpreting.
Okay, we're gonna move on from this conversation.
My grandmother shows a whole deep part. And I didn't mean to offend you when I'm talking about. I'm not trying to like generalize. I'm not trying to generalize. All I'm saying that I was surprised when her grandson was doing like certain behaviors and ignoring his grandmother and everything she went through.
I just said, Donnie.
Hurt my heart. That's all I was saying.
Okay, that's fine. We're gonna move on from this part of the conversation.
Exactly, because that's all I was saying.
We're not gonna dwell on it.
God does talk to men. Believe me, I know. He has conversations with me every single day, yo.
Who does?
God Almighty above us all. He's called many names throughout time and history, y'all.
Which one are you referring to?
I'm talking about the God of man, the God of made man, not modern man.
Oh, the Abrahamic God.
Yeah, he used to be that. But that's a different fact.
Wait, he used to be that?
He used to be that.
Wait,
God's changed.
God changes?
Most definitely. He sure
Oh,
does.
interesting.
That goes against what most theists say about
I like a God that can adapt, though. That's much cooler.
It's not changing and adapting to different things, sir. That's why it's a movement.
Does yoga flexible? It's flexible.
Yes, he does yoga in his spare time. He never gets no sleep. He works every single day. He's a God of mine. I told him the other day that, you know what? I wouldn't give you a day off. How about that? Let me take over this one day. Just one day. That's all it takes.
How do you know God? How do you know God does yoga? Did God tell you?
They're the same class, Steve.
It's a cute puppy yoga, though. It's a cute puppy yoga. Jump all over you.
It's
so you'll be there. That does sound like fun. Believe it or not, what I say makes more sense than what the system is saying before this. I understand her pain and what she went through. That's not wrong either. You know, so that's okay. That's okay. But when she said the N-word, none of y'all said nothing. Because y'all accept that from people.
No, listen, I told you to remove it in that thing because that's a subject. It's a subject. Something right now. I'm going to tell you something right now. For Caucasians, even though we may feel that way, if there are multiple, however you would refer to African American black people in the room, it is a subject much better to left handled to the people that actually relates to, rather than us coming down and laying down the law for them. I'm comfortable.
Refer to us as God our Father. How about that?
No, I won't. No. I won't do that.
Your fathers is bad. One came first, no came later on.
No, I'll just refer to you by your. Is that your name? Warning? Is that your name? Actual name?
I'm only you know one, sir. That's it. But you got another power.
No, I have a very minimalist amount.
All on Clubhouse. So, there's a question. Who came first?
I mean, well, warning came first.
So just to be clear, like I did think like it's wrong to use that word, right? Because I think like habituation does lead to like some sort of implicit acceptance of that term, right? And anything, like whether you say good things or bad things, like if you are using pejoratives for an entire group, even if you don't mean that way, I do think that you like take it in as like some sort of background accepted belief, right? That there's some sort of inferiority, and so that's why I don't think people should be using pejoratives like that for people that they're not trying to insult. I agree. So, like, I do agree with you.
I'm sorry, I thought you were.
Thank you, Mr. Caucasian, man. I appreciate that.
What?
Actually, I'm a black dog.
Dude, why do you do that, Warning? So, Warning, I want to avoid all this talk about humanity, labeling humanity, right? I want to support your claim that God talks to you on a daily basis. What do you mean by that?
I have a question for everybody.
He was trying to get it a second ago. Go ahead.
I have a question for everybody. When I said Caucasian, everybody came off the behavior on this question when I said, but when she said nigger, they said,
all right, we already addressed this. Conrad, go ahead with your question.
Okay, what's your question?
Warning, we already addressed. Warning, no, guys, we already addressed this. We already addressed this. Go ahead. This is a fucking warning. I warned the timer.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, CC, what's your question?
No, Conrad, go ahead.
So, warning, just playing that quote unquote we came for white people. I think it's kind of like an inappropriate understanding. Evolutionary biology. In fact, neither of us came first. That doesn't make any sense. Archaic humans, which are our ancestors, right, are related to both people within the African diaspora as well as people in Europe, Asia, and the Americas. There was a transitional period where the branch of Homo sapiens branched out due to scarcity of resources and population boom to different regions of the planet. And as time went on,
there was inbreeding with other
in fact, there was always constant exchange, particularly when we talk about Europe, the Mediterranean, Northern Africa, the Levant, and Central Africa. There was consistent remigration all throughout that region, right? So there was constantly intermixing between populations. So this idea that one or another came first is actually not true. And in fact, there is extremely heavy evidence that the genetic changes that reduced melanin in the skin for European hominids, this includes, Cro-Magnon, Neanderthals, and Homo sapiens sapiens, it happened very much earlier than much later, not earlier, much later than people think. We're talking about if you go back maybe 20 generations think for modern humans, not archaic humans, this adaptation happened within the last 40,000 years. It's not even that recent. So this idea that like we came first, it doesn't make sense because we're too closely genetically related. We are the same species.
Right. Same race. All one race.
How old is this? Hold on, guys. I want to make one thing clear here too, because it's going to come up again, obviously. Okay. Even within, and we'll just use this, and people will disagree with this language too, so I'm just going to use it just for simplicity. Even within the Black community, all encompassing anybody with that heritage, there's wildly differing attitudes about these racial terms, okay? Wildly different attitudes. So, if an issue comes up in a room like this, and it's between those people of the same ethnicity, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to let them work it out. I can say that I don't like it, but I'm not about to tell them they can or can't. I'm going to let them work it out. Because it's like I said, the attitudes are so wildly varied, even within I'll let them set their social norms for the situation.
I'm wrong.
You know what, comrade? I'm not going to
Wait. I want to make a quick correction.
I know, but I'm going to submit to what you believe in. However,
I want to make a quick correction.
Go ahead, brother.
So all I want to say is this: I'm actually wrong. It happened even later than when I said. The estimates of when the genetic change in skin color happened was 14,000 years ago. So it's literally like Egypt existed when this transition was happening. So most Europeans still had brown skin during the reign of the Egyptian Empire.
Can we get back to God talking to people?
Yeah.
So warning, you made it.
Warning is gone.
I guess we're not gonna find out how he knows that God does yoga, right?
Listen, with people that talk in that mannerism, like almost being a street preacher right from the get-go when they start talking and they say things like that and they're speaking these grandiose general terms, you're not going to get specifics from people like that. 90% of the time, it's going to completely stay on this verbose track that they're on, grand sweeping conceptual things, no specifics, no details. I just don't even waste my time with people like that.
Well, I'll give some specifics on a topic that was brought up recently for the mods, and I totally respect your room, totally respect your rules to do with what you want, and I never ever tell anybody else what to say unless they're in my room. In my room, I don't allow the N-word at all. If anybody uses it, and I don't care who you are, you get one warning. You use it a second time, you are out. I completely understand why you mods in this room allow the people of a certain color skin to work it out for themselves, and I respect that. Me, and this is just me because it works for me, I don't allow anybody to use the N-word in my room.
That's cool. And I can understand that as well, decorum-wise. What I don't want to do is make it feel like people are going to be, because I mean, for a lot of people, it is just a regular part of the vernacular and not being used in necessarily a derogatory way. You know what I mean? If it's used in a derogatory way, I find it much easier to set those kind of boundaries. But a lot of times, it's as common as a New Yorker saying "fuck." You know what I mean? I mean, New York. Yeah. It's a common language thing. So I think in certain cases, I might actually take that approach, Steve. In a lot of cases, I'm going to take the other approach.
Yeah, and I respect what you're saying, and I completely agree, or I completely do not dispute that you believe that to be true. However, it's not true, and I'll give you example one. The statement, well, as long as you're not using it in a derogatory fashion, it's okay. Well, if you come across a group of 25 people who are black, and they're using that word as a term of endearment or for their friends, and then I come up, me and my white skin, and I say,
Hi, N-word. Good to be here. I love you all. You N-words are great. A lot of them are going to be upset, pissed off, and want to beat the crap out of me. Not because that I'm using it in a bad, derogatory way, but because I'm white, and I have no license to use that word in a friendly, enduring term like the 25 of them. That's my humble opinion.
And you're probably not wrong, which actually would kind of bolster the case, I think, in situations like this where it is a mixed crowd, to take a little bit more of a genteel, understanding approach. Now, if you had 5 of them that came in the room and just started yelling at each other, yeah, I think it would be more than warranted to put a stop to it. But just when it comes up like it did, casually in a conversation like that, I'm going to take the more metered approach. But again, I respect what you said.
And I totally respect the rules of your room. Absolutely.
Thanks. All right. Let's see. Well, we had a potential fun thing going on with the Morgan, but like I said, we weren't going to get anything out of him. Is there anybody? Oh, Toast, what's up? Hey, by the way, Toast, if you pop a gift like that again, I won't tolerate that. But okay, I will not. So just fair warning. I love you, man, but I'm not going to tolerate that kind of stuff. Anybody else have anything they'd like to bring up? I feel like Toast is our only. Is Toast our only believer in the room?
Say that if you don't have from Paul, you're not a true.
Oh no!
That's some people.
Oh, I wonder who that could be.
I'm tired and lazy to
I know Toast isn't anti-Pauline, I'm pretty sure, if I remember. I found out a lot about Toast's positions. I don't know if he's held them for a long time or if his position has been evolving, but I'm always a little surprised with all the little tidbits I find out about Toast's position. Toast, are you able to speak? Toast is strategically laying low at the moment.
That's a very agreement.
Yeah.
I think in Toast some words he may be waiting for the rooms to ripen.
He wants to jump into already accelerating mayhem rather than step on the gas himself. Okay. Have you met Toast before, Steve?
Yes, Toast and I have spoken. I don't remember our conversations, but if he brought up like 15, 20 seconds, I would remember. I've spoken to him, but I don't remember the conversation.
He has a lot of interesting viewpoints, a very cutting sense of humor and wit.
What are the viewpoints?
I don't want to. Well, he's an anti-Pauline Christian.
I don't know what that means.
He rejects the writings of Paul.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay.
I think he's also. This is something I found out. I think he's more of a Torah observant Christian, which is like the first person I actually knew that was like that was Mr. Batman. I'm sure you're familiar with him. He was the first one of that ilk that I knew of, and when I found out that Toast was one, I was surprised. I wasn't sure if he'd always been that way, if that was something he more recently come in. But unfortunately, he's not gracing us with any confirmation of any of these things. Now, some of his more controversial stuff, I'll leave.
Well, why don't you, if it's okay, what was the meme or the picture that he put up that you said you wouldn't tolerate? What was it?
A raccoon meme.
And that is bad because
that's obviously indicative of being derogatory towards African American black people.
a raccoon is derogatory of
Yes.
black people.
Yes.
Yes. Right. Okay.
In old terms, coon is the shortening of that, and that.
Oh, you're referring to coon. Yes. Now.
Yeah.
Now I know. Yeah. Now I know. Yes.
I will not tolerate.
My friend told me he calls them raccoons. He calls them trash pandas. And that was the first time I ever heard.
They're actually surprisingly smart.
They are. They really are smart.
Which is weird, right? Because don't they have pretty smooth brains? Like, I thought that was like
Most carnivores do, from what I understand.
Yeah, he watched that raccoon come in his garage, grab a bowl of cat food, hold it in a hand, and then knocked over one of his beers that he was sipping on and drink from the beer bottle as it was dripping beer out of it, and run off with the cat food.
It was hilarious. She was I'm sorry, that's smooth intestines that carnivores have, not brains. I totally had my biology mixed.
Well, I think there's like a couple other examples that break that mold. So it's like, I don't know, that was the indication of where the whole, What is a smooth intestine?
It's not as carnivore's intestines are not as pocketed or is not as long winding of a intestinal setup as like our omnivore or herbivore.
Push that shit out quite literally.
Yeah.
So it's like putrefying meat.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't quite understand the reasoning behind Toast's. I guess this sporadic cynicism, or I guess he enables like irrationality, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm crazy" or something. I don't know. That was like the first time I've been introduced.
I've known Toast since about 2017, and I will say this: in his attitudes and in his demeanor and the way he carries himself and the way things usually end up going, he's very consistent. So I have to give him that. He's extremely good. When you're always gonna get the same Toast. Except if he's been drinking, but I think that's true for all of us. A slightly different version of ourselves. No, but Toast used to. Because they all did. See, I came from that Tom Rabbit community. That's where I started this whole thing. And man, if you survived the roasting from that group, you can survive almost anything. Holy. We're all severely disappointed in your silence right now. Is there anybody down there in the audience?
I would argue that the.
Is there anybody down there in the audience?
I would argue that.
Andrew's
crew became far more.
Yeah.
Also had people that he had to protect, right?
Yeah, but I'm talking about early on. I'm talking about like I'm talking about into.
Let's see you acknowledge your man.
My show! Bravo! Much more Wild West than Andrew will ever.
Oh. Are you talking about who hurt you? He was a teacher.
So I just want y'all to know
Sorry, I'm eating. It's very rude. I apologize. Mom was somebody at one point.
Monetary value.
And that runs the combination of that, with the Pokeballs and all that, it's difficult. I like that mitigation more than anything else.
Yeah, Tom still has that personality type. He still has all those capabilities. I think he just got.
Well, buddy, I'm posting selfies on Facebook promoting my content.
He used to be about cultivating the going into detail about maybe that's all bullshit. So maybe
in the last few years, he's been much more about just having a very controlled small room of who he wants in there. Constant action is just not necessarily.
If the room is being recorded, it's being recorded. Do that, you know? It's like
I don't know. Discord was the original King.
Mojo was going to set up an interview with Lou Fast.
I don't know. Just the way
guys like
having
I'm gonna start timing
ease of access to each other.
Facilities that I go to when they do need stuff.
Actually access to rooms and servers in the place. I think it just kind of cultivates a much more isolated type of experience rather than what this place did. I got tired of it. I liked it. Because they are going to have a much easier time getting away with saying just about whatever they want. Whereas in a place like this, it's much more strictly monitored because there's much higher traffic. They're not going to be able to get away with saying half the crazy shit that those guys say. So it's a much, even though it's still, you have to be careful over there, it's still much easier to get away with saying just absolute garbage over there than it is.
I've heard that word a few times before. What the hell is an anime debater?
Anime debater is like similar to a debate, bro. I mean, it's based on this really strange phenomenon that we've noticed, especially with people that tend to come from the more orthodox traditions, and they want to come on and debate, like, you know, Jay Dyer acolytes. All these guys from these more orthodox or Eastern versions of Christianity, they love to have anime characters as their profiles, as their PTRs. And so all of these debate bros who just like would get into like this severe, like just think of I don't know what he goes by currently, but Mason or Arabesque or whatever his name is now. Think of him times 10, and just being absolutely hung up on strictness of philosophical language and delivering arguments. Like, I mean, very, very strict and very, very unforgiving about it. And then having absolute horrible attitudes, and then having an anime as your profile. It kind of became like even Converse has an anime as this thing. I mean, what is that? What is it with the anime? Why do all these guys and it's me? I don't ever. Unless I'm wrong, I don't think I've ever seen a female, or very few, with anime profile.
So you've got like Femicel and Cell that lean into anime.
Yeah, but with the anime debaters, and especially with what confused me is the severely orthodox types adapting that symbology, or that's how they represent it.
So, can you give me an example? Because I'm trying to understand what you mean by that.
I don't see as much. There's not going to be as many examples here because they don't hang out here as much as they do at Discord. But if you can get into a
Discord far more.
Yeah.
Like, if you go to Discord, God, who's that guy, Gregory? He's a big time in pre-summer. A lot of the pre-summers do the anime debate.
But they will have literal anime characters, very often female characters, as their PFPs or whatever they call them. I forget. Yeah, PFPs in Discord world is your profile picture.
You think it's all to do with like? I'm sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, you're fine.
You think it's all to do with? I've had this thought before. Like, you know, not all anime is the same. Of course, a lot of the mean kind of like common garbage anime. They still come at it with stoicism.